welcome to the Old Farts Fix-It Corner. You guessed it, I'm the Old Fart. What the Fix-It Corner is all about is me sharing with you some of the tricks and the things that I learned and the experience that I got through 20 plus years in the construction business to help you fix some of the things at home and save some money by doing it yourself. So let's look at the next project. Alright then, in this next project we are going to install kitchen wall cabinets and base cabinets along this kitchen wall. The kitchen already has cabinets in it, so the cabinets that we're going to use will be unfinished cabinets that we will match the stain. In order to install the cabinets on this wall, we had to do some preparation. Number one, there was a plug down here that'll now be below the base cabinet. We removed that plug from that area and moved it up so that it will be above the countertop. Also, we installed power a little further up that'll be inside an upper cabinet that will power the above counter microwave oven. Over here, we lowered the thermostat. You can see the hole where the thermostat was. We lowered it down a couple inches so it will be below the cabinets. And above the thermostat, you can see a hole where the smoke detector used to be. We moved the smoke detector up so that it'll be above the kitchen cabinets. And after making all the changes that we needed to make, we went ahead and touched up the drywall and painted the wall any place where the cabinets aren't going to cover it. Anywhere where the cabinets will cover it, we didn't have to worry about working with that. So for installation prep in the kitchen, the existing kitchen, the base cabinets from the floor to the top of the countertop was 36¼ inches. From the top of the countertop to the bottom of the wall cabinets was 20 inches. For preparation of the installation of my wall cabinets, I took the 36¼ inches plus the 20 inches plus the 30 inches for the height of my cabinets, and I put a mark at the top and ran it all the way across the wall with a level, so there would be a level horizontal mark at the top of the cabinets. This mark being at the top of the cabinets, I won't have to worry about it showing after installation. Also, my first cabinet is 27 inches wide, so I measured from this post over 27¾ inches so that there would be a 3/4 inch gap along the post. I found the studs and marked the centers. You can see I took a nail and found the edges of the stud so that I could determine exactly where the center was. Then I went ahead and marked them along the way, and now I will take and make sure that that is actually the center of the stud. It is important to find the actual center of the stud, to find each edge and find the center of the stud, because we're going to be taking measurements and drilling holes in our cabinets so that when we run the screws in, we will make sure that the screws are going into a stud to hold the cabinet to the wall. That's important. And we want to find the center because our measurements might, cabinets might move one way or another a little bit, and if we're too far to the edge of the stud on our measurement, then we might actually go through the corner of the stud rather than going into the stud solidly. So we want to have a little bit of leeway, so we want to make sure we find the center of the stud. We do that by taking a nail, and I'll go over approximately 3/4 inch from my center mark, and you can see how the nail curved to the edge. That means I found the edge right there. The edge of this stud is about right here. Okay, and I'll go to the other side of it about 3/4 inch and see what I find. Well, I was a little bit further in. The edge on this side is probably over here. Alright, so if I measure that now, that should be 1.5 inches from mark to mark for the edge of the stud. And that's exactly what I have, is 1.5 inches. So my center mark from the original center mark that I had, my center mark is over about 1/8 of an inch to the right of the original center mark that I had. So that's the center of my stud right there. Okay, so that's what we want to know. Now, of course, I'm doing all of this in an area that's going to be behind the cabinet. So none of these holes or marks are going to be seen once the cabinets are installed on the wall. Now I was able to get the measurements for the hole in the back of my center cabinet for the plug. So I was able to measure over from this vertical line for the side of the cabinet to the plug, and then down from the top line for the top of the cabinets down to the plug, and able to transfer that to the back of my center cabinet to cut the hole. Okay, now once we've determined what's going to be our top and bottom of the cabinet, then we can set the cabinet down and take our measurements from our plumb line and vertical line in there, and go ahead and mark this to cut the hole in the back. Okay, now I've determined that this is going to be the bottom of our cabinet and this is going to be the top. Since this is the face of our cabinet, I want to protect it. I want to lay it on its face. I'm going to take a couple rags that I had here, and I'm going to put them down on my little work surface here, and I'll lay the cabinet on the rags rather than on the plywood. So I'll lay it down like that. Okay. So now this is the bottom facing me and this is the top here. Now we have to keep in mind that we basically got this reversed. This panel that we're looking at right here will go against the wall. And since this is the bottom, we're measuring from our left, but we got to reverse that and measure from our right. So we had 10 3/4 inches to 15.5 across here. So 10 3/4 to 15.5. And then from the top, we had 4.5 to 7.5. So from the top, we come down 4.5 to 7.5. And I'm going to mark that at both ends. 4.5 to 7.5. Then I'll take this framing square and I'll continue my marks down. And the horizontal marks. Alright, now I'm just going to double check that I got that right. It's 10 3/4 to 15.5. That's good. And 4.5 to 7.5. We're good on that. Alright, we're going to use a drill bit large enough that the blade from our saber saw or our jigsaw will fit through the hole. So we'll drill a hole near one of the corners. And when you drill through like that, you want to be easy. Don't put a lot of pressure on because you don't want it to bust out the other side. Now we'll take our saber saw and we'll just begin to cut this out. Go back and square up all these corners. And that's how it looks on the inside of the cabinet. Okay, also in this cabinet, we have to have a hole in the bottom of it because the microwave is going to hang from the bottom of this cabinet, and there has to be a place for that plug to go up through. And so we've measured on the microwave and found out that the center of the hole should be 5 1/4 inches from the back and 8 3/4 inches from the right side. So again, we have this flipped over, so when we flip it around, this will be the right. So we have the sides of the cabinet are 1/2 inch, so 8 3/4 minus a 1/2 inch is 8 1/4. Mark that, and then 5 1/4 minus a 1/2 inch is 4 3/4. And we'll mark that. And then we're going to take a 1 1/4 inch hole saw because the plug on that is actually a little over 1 inch. So we're going to go 1 1/4 just to make sure it's big enough to get through. I'm going to cut about halfway through from that side, and the pilot bit already went through. I'm going to finish it from the inside so that I don't bust out the finish again. That's how it looks on the bottom. There's a look at the inside. Nice even cut. Because I am not impressed with the way these cabinets are constructed, I want to add a piece of wood across the top and the back of the cabinet here to add strength to it, because this cabinet is going to have the weight of the microwave oven hanging from the bottom of it. In order to do that, I'm going to have to make sure that the board that I put in here is not bigger than the distance between the top of the cabinet and the hole for my electric plug, and it of course will go from end to end. And that's what I will use. I'll attach the cabinet to the wall through that board. Okay, I happen to have a piece of scrap wood here in the shop that was 2 1/2 inches wide. And I cut it to the length because 2 1/2 inches is plenty, and it'll fit in my 3-inch area. Now, before I install this, I'm going to glue this in and screw it. Inside the cabinet, there's a finish on here, and so what I want to do is take some sandpaper and rough up that finish to make sure that the glue is going to be able to stick. Alright, and then once I get that sanded, I will take and use my shop vac to get the dust out of it. Alright, in order to install this board in here, what we want to do is we want to mark out and drill holes so we can put screws down through here into the end of this board. Alright, in order to do that, we want to make sure that the screws hit right in the center of the board, and they're about 1/2 an inch down from each edge. So this backboard is 3/8 of an inch thick here, and this 1x is 3/4 of an inch thick. We want to hit right in the center, so that's another 3/8. So 3/8 and 3/8 is 3/4. So we'll measure in from the back here 3/4 of an inch, and we'll put our mark. Then we'll take a square and we'll put it on that mark, and we'll draw a line here. Okay. Now then, and you can see on the top and bottom of these cabinets there's a recess. That recess is about, well, it's 3/4 of an inch thick, and the thickness of the board is again 3/8 of an inch. So 3/4 plus 3/8 is 1 inch and 1/8. So we'll come up here and we'll mark 1 inch and 1/8. Okay, that will get us to the top of this board on the inside, and then the board is 2.5. So 1 inch and 1/8 plus 2.5 is 3 5/8. So that's the bottom of our board. Now we want to be about 1/2 inch in from the top and 1/2 inch in from the bottom. So we'll mark this hole at 1 3/4 and this hole at 3 inches. And that should get us pretty darn close to being 1/2 inch. Now we'll take a drill bit that's smaller than the diameter of our screws, and we'll go ahead and we'll drill a hole through it. Okay, now all we're going to do is just turn this over and do the same thing to the other end. Alright, now that we've got both of those drilled on both sides, I'm switching to what they call a countersink bit. I'm just going to put a little bit of, it's shaped like a countersink screw, so that the countersink screw will go down flush. And with this type of particle board, you don't want, the screw won't go in without breaking it. So. Alright, then once we're ready, we're going to go ahead and put some carpenter's glue, if I can get it open. I'm going to put some carpenter's glue on the back of this board. That should be good. Go ahead and set the board into place. Push it down tight. Now we're going to use just drywall screws, 1 5/8 drywall screws. And we're going to screw it in through each end. Now go ahead and get one in that side, one in this side, and then we'll put the double screw in each side. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is flip this over and put some shorter screws in through the back. Again, making sure I have my rags down here so I don't mess up my front. Alright, now we want to be sure we don't drill too far in, and we only need a couple screws back here just to pull that in tight while the glue dries. Once the glue dries, you don't really have to worry about it. We're only using 1-inch screws here because we only have the thickness of this board, 3/8 of an inch thick, and 3/4 inch on the 1x. So that's all we need. And just like before, the countersink bit just makes it so that the countersink screw will be flush. Okay, now we're going to take a couple 1-inch screws and put them in there. Here's I need to do a little, it has a little bigger head on this screw, so. I have to make a bigger countersink hole. Well, that's better. Let's take this one back out. Redo it. Okay, that should be good. Now we're all set. I feel a little more confident about this being able to hold the weight. There you have it. Okay, there's one more thing that needs to be done to prepare this cabinet for installation. According to the instructions for the microwave oven, we need to install a strip of wood on each end to fill in this space so that when we bolt the oven to it, there won't be any gap in here. So we're going to go ahead and cut a couple of pieces of board and install them in that area on each end of the bottom. So this gap in here is 3/4 inches, so a piece of 1x will work perfect in that area. Now the microwave oven says that the wood's going to be, the screw holes are going to be about 1.5 inches in from the end, which would be about there. So we're just going to use some more of that scrap lumber that I had, that 2.5 inches wide. And if we put a 2.5-inch strip in each end, that should be just fine. So our length inside here is 10 7/8 inches. So that's what we'll go ahead and cut our boards off at, 10 7/8, and we'll be good. All right, we have our boards cut here. They're gonna fit, yeah. Yes, they'll fit. So once again, we're gonna glue these and put some screws in them. Not because they're gonna hold any weight, but basically just to make sure they stay in place so that we can, when we go to hang our cabinet, they're not falling, causing a problem. Again, I'm going to take and sand, rough up this edge a little, this surface a little bit, so that the glue will stick. Okay, so now we'll take and put a little bit of glue on here. Set these in place, one on each end. Just gonna, on these edges, maybe one in the back here, we're just gonna go ahead and drill a couple holes. Just like that. I'm gonna use the 1 5/8 screws, and we're not worried about countersinking these, because these edges won't touch anything. So as long as they go in all the way, we'll be good. Do the same thing to this side. Okay, now we're all good. Everything's nice and flush. All right, this one's ready to install. So now we have the walls prepared and the wall cabinets prepared. The next step, or the next segment, will be about installing them. We'll see you then.